So it seems that Warhammer 40K is now fully confirmed to be getting a new faction. Emperor's Children are coming and confirmed for 2025. Let's talk about Games Workshop's releases, what we know so far, and what's likely to be coming for the army. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today I thought I'd take a video to focus on the Emperor's Children themselves, 40K's latest new faction that I think that most people were pretty sure were coming given their previous hints, but now this is the first time that we've had anything that's quite this close to an announcement, with the army being teased in 2025. As mentioned in the last video, basically at the end of Games Workshop's reveal show for Warhammer Day, they just dropped off a little teaser trailer at the end, an Emperor's Children logo with the text coming 2025, a nice bit of purple to go with their Legion colour. And I feel like it's quite nice just when they have these reveal shows to give us even a little teaser as to what's coming next, even if it's not really anything particularly confirmed in terms of miniatures or whatever. I guess that means that on paper Games Workshop are adding another faction to Warhammer 40k, again with a fairly crazy number of factions in the first place, though it does seem that there's been a bit of give and take over the last few years. We've had armies and codexes added for World Eaters and Leagues of Votan, but we have had some basically rolled in and condensed to other books, such as Death Watch going in with the Inquisition, and Harlequins being part of Eldari now. I guess there's a bit of a balancing act from Games Workshop. They very much want to release entire new armies and factions to sell people, but also will actually have to go about the business of supporting and updating these each time there's a new edition of the game, and that will get gradually more and more intense if they just keep on adding stuff and never take anything away. It seems that the Emperor's Children are kind of the last step in a project that's been going on for quite a while in Warhammer 40k. The first Primarch to return to the 40k setting was Magnus of the Thousand Sons. He came out alongside a refresh for the Legion back in 2016, and seems that at that point Games Workshop very much had plans to eventually do all of the deity-specific traitor legions all in one go. So I guess from first release of Magnus and the Thousand Sons to Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children completing the set, it's basically a 9-year project for Warhammer 40k, so really quite a big one time-wise. Following him we had Mortarion and Death Guard launched in 2017 next to the all-new Primaris Marines, then Angron and the World Eaters dropping early last year in 2023, even if the miniatures were known about in 2022, and now Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children build for 2025. And when they're out, we'll have one Chaos Legion with its own codex for each Chaos deity. Kind of seems unlikely that they'd stop with releasing the Chaos Primarchs after that, particularly as there's no real reason that they couldn't have Lorgar or Perturabo in particular with miniatures in the current setting. I wonder how long a break they'll leave before we see the next one of those. For the Emperor's Children themselves, they've got a massive amount of backstory, pretty well known to a lot of people out there. They're the 3rd Legion of Space Marines, and alongside their Primarch Fulgrim fell to the machinations of Slanesh. Their dedication to martial perfection in all forms made them easier prey than some apparently, and following the defeat of the traitors in the Horus Heresy, they were vanquished back to the Eye of Terror with the rest. I believe the Emperor's Children not being quite as coherent a fighting force, and a lot of individual lords and warbands kind of doing their own thing without the central presence of Fulgrim to direct them. In battle they've become truly twisted from what they were before, often having bionics to augment their senses to be able to see the battlefield in ridiculous bursts of colour and noise, and they make great use of ear and body splitting sonic weaponry, their noise marines annihilating foes with sonic blasters and blastmasters and things. In the recent Indomitus era, Fulgrim was believed to have retreated to a demonic pleasure planet of some sort. I don't think there were many firm details as to what had happened with him, and I believe one of the biggest teasers to him coming back was an aside in one of the Psychic Awakening books, reports of something enormous and serpentine stirring. In 10th edition we already knew that Emperor's Children were coming at some point. Games Workshop didn't want to say anything official, but they'd kind of given the game away with Codex Chaos Space Marines already, when they clarified that a few choice units wouldn't be appearing in Codex Chaos Marines, Lucius the Eternal and the Noise Marines, basically the 2 unique units of the Emperor's Children there, going out and getting temporary rules in their own index. That meant that they didn't have to put them in the main Chaos Space Marine Codex, as it was strongly suspected they'd be getting their own codex later in the edition, but it meant that you could still use them in the interim to fill them with the new Chaos Marine detachments. The rules maybe are a little bit restrictive. You have to take Lucius as the Warlord, and the only other real reward is that you get Noise Marine troops, but then you do have to forego taking a bunch of things, nothing marked with any other deity marks, like say in the Pact-Bound detachment or the Khorne Lord of Skulls. And for the most part they don't get loads of play competitively for Chaos Space Marines, though it didn't stop them from winning at the absolute highest level with the victory at the London Grand Tournament recently, though I suspect that most people would accredit that to the person playing them as opposed to the overall strength of the Legion. In any case, for the Codex release though, putting them in a temporary index was basically exactly what they'd done for the World Eaters the edition before, We had them taken out of the Chaos Space Marine Codex in 9th edition, even if the Chaos Codex was a little bit later coming out in that one. For that one, the World Eaters got put in their own White Dwarf index for a bit, with the Khorne Berserkers and Khan the Betrayer, and then from that happening it was less than a year until the World Eaters got their Codex. Theirs came out right towards the end of 9th edition, which was a bit sad for how long they had to use it before the great big reset for 10th edition. I guess in theory it could be that the Emperor's Children are released within the last year of 10th before 11th kicks off, but my guess is, based on what they've done in the past, that they're probably not going to pull a big reset of the entire game and go for a more sort of 8th to 9th edition core rules change but keep the codexes intact, but I guess we'll wait and see on that front. If they are coming in 2025 though, it might well mean that Fulgrim isn't turning up as part of an end of edition campaign, unless he also just makes a starring role after his model's been released. If they literally just did a rinse and repeat of what they did in 9th edition, they had both Angron and the Lion dropping with their miniatures at the tail end of 9th edition within the last 6 months of the edition, and this would be a little bit before that, as they are indeed coming out in 2025. For other small hints that Games Workshop have given us, they did refer to 2025 as the Year of Chaos apparently, which are maybe a little bit dubious to take at too much value. I feel like when they've said the year of something or other in the past, it's often translated to just slightly more Chaos releases than normal, or a particularly big Chaos release at some point. And it's not necessarily just for Warhammer 40k either. It looks like Age of Sigmar are going to be getting Slaves to Darkness, unless they come out before Christmas, and it could relate to other things in their game systems. Though to be fair, just from 40k it does seem like they've got their work cut out in releasing Chaos Codexes, as they seem to have kept all of them for the second half of the edition bar the actual core Chaos Marine one. If none of them get changed or consolidated in any way, there's still 6 of the 7 possible Chaos books to come. That'll be all the Deity Legions, Death Guard World Eaters, Thousand Sons, and Emperor's Children now we know, and then Chaos Demons and Chaos Knights. Chaos Knights possibly towards the start of the year if they do come out in tandem with the Imperial Knight Codex again. That's the one that's supposed to be coming after Eldari and Astra Militarum, so probably sooner rather than later in the year. At the moment we still haven't seen the pattern for what Deity Legion Codex books are going to look like this time around. So far in 10th edition we've seen some divergent chapter books like the Blood Angels and Dark Angels, but we haven't seen any of their equivalents for the Chaos Legions, so that's still a little bit of a question mark as to how they could be treated. I feel like if they release them all quite close together, they could do something weird like reinterpret them in some way. It kind of feels unlikely that they'd make them supplement books like the Loyalists, given that the Deity Legions generally haven't been able to access as much of the core Chaos Space Marine Codex, so it seems that if they really wanted to, they could do similar things to say Blood Angels and Dark Angels, allow them the full access to the core Chaos range, and then add bits on top. There have also been some rumours as well that Chaos Demons might be folded into them in some way. Absolutely not confirmed at the moment. It maybe feels like there'd be some models that would be problematic, like say where Be'lakor would go out of the different books if that were the case, but it really wouldn't be impossible. They could go down that route in Warhammer 40k, have say Slaanesh Demons alongside Emperor's Children, and Khorne Demons alongside World Eaters. They basically do that in Age of Sigmar, and they certainly could choose to do it in 40k if they wanted. That would be a massive shake-up and sort of end Chaos Demon armies, or at least as they stand at the moment. Whenever I've seen that discussed, I've seen some people who would be in favour of it, and plenty of people who wouldn't. Otherwise though, for 10th edition detachments, I can't imagine that they'd have too many crazy varied ones. 3 seems kind of likely, given that's what the Divergent chapters are getting, and I feel like there just aren't all that many big different themes and archetypes within these Traitor Legions to do things incredibly differently. I guess it would likely mean that Emperor's Children would lose access to the standard ones in Core Codex Chaos Marines though, as well as a bunch of generic picks. Say for example, Death Guard and Thousand Sons and World Eaters can't take picks such as Havocs or Raptors, despite the fact that they could field them when they were in the original Chaos Codex before they all got separated out. It seems likely that looking at World Eaters to see what generic picks Emperor's Children can take would be kind of likely. Pretty odds on to keep things like say Helldrakes, Chaos Spawn, and Forge Fiends and Mauler Fiends, plus Land Raiders and Rhinos and Predator tanks, but units like Obliterators and Venom Crawlers are probably out. I guess we could probably be fairly confident as to Fulgrim stats as well. The Demon Primarchs tend to be Toughness 11 with a 2+ save and a 4+ invulnerable and 16 wounds, then have their own add-ons for that where they're a little bit faster and have their own flavours of damage of one sort or another. And then a command ability where you get to pick one of 3 different options, and that gives you a powerful boost for the turn in one way or another. From Games Workshop's Super Nebulous Codex roadmap, it basically implies that special Chaos treats come at some point after Imperial Knights, so maybe sometime mid-2025 would be my guess. It could just literally be referring to the entire rest of the year for all we know at this point though. When they launched Leagues of Votann as their own faction in 9th edition 40k, they came in at around about the September sort of release slot. Over 8th and 9th, they've often tended to add new factions a bit later in the edition, maybe to fill the gaps so most armies aren't waiting on their codexes for the entire edition long, and they can release new stuff in the last bit of it. Finally, probably the bit that's going to be on most people's minds are what sort of models are going to be coming out for them. There's a couple of things that just seem absolutely 100% guaranteed, and Noise Marines are one of them. They're one of the last Chaos kits that's been waiting on an update since a ridiculously long time, having their metal then resin upgrade sprue that in all honesty I wasn't the biggest fan of when they were initially a thing, let alone the best part of 20 years down the line. It'd be cool to see them properly realised in new plastic form. All your Sonic Blasters, Blastmasters and Doom Siren goodness. There's plenty of things that they could draw off a bit. The old Noise Marine kits on the top left. We've got the Horus Heresy Cacophony on the right hand side. They released a solo Noise Marine release for a limited edition miniature at one point on the bottom left, going for some slightly jazzier armour than the Emperor's Children colour scheme there. Though I can't help but think they might take a lot of note from this perhaps best known artwork down at the bottom centre here. I feel like if they just took this and made it into current scale 40k plastics, there'd be a lot of love. In any case, it will be interesting to have the Legion with a solid and dangerous shooting troops choice. Another totally guaranteed option is Lucius the Eternal. He's been pretty much the poster child of the Emperor's Children in terms of special character representation. I guess we have Fabius Bile as well, but he rather does his own thing. Lucius is one of the guys who fancied himself as a duelist in the Horus Heresy. I quite enjoyed the miniature that they released for him there. In 40k he's altogether more twisted, fighting with a Lash of Torment and his power weapon, and then he has the armour of Shrieking Souls that means if you slay him you gradually turn into him, which doesn't seem like the fairest fight in the world. The Force of Chaos should probably get him to go and challenge Guilliman or something. His classic miniature's been another one that's just really needed an update for a very long time now. Otherwise, I think people would really like to see some cool Phoenician Terminators of some sort, no doubt all warped and twisted on their journey into Warhammer 40k of course. The Heresy era sculpts for the Emperor's Children generally went down pretty well. Maybe we'll see some fun Terminator variants in Tartarus plate, as we've got with the Scarab Occult and the Death Guard ones for the other legions. And then of course we've got the big guy himself, Demon Primarch Fulgrim, who's likely going to look at least somewhat similar to his Fulgrim transfigured miniature for Horus Heresy. That miniature from Forge World was really quite well received, generally doing what people were expecting it to. I feel like maybe Games Workshop's challenge with that is to translate it into plastic, maybe add a bit more 40k craziness, but also not mess it up too well. Fingers crossed they deliver a good one. Then beyond that, there's all sorts of things that they could do, but they might or might not. All the other Deity Legions have got raised cultists of some sort, whether it's Zangors, Jackals, or Poxwalkers. I'm not sure I want to see what Slaanesh does with normal humans, but I guess we might. A generic lord of some sort seems like a must, and they could do all manner of other support characters, as Death Guard got with their Virion ones. And then beyond that, just going by what we've seen before, there's the possibility for unique demon engines if they wanted to, maybe a possessed alternative if they wanted to do something similar to the World Eater's 8-bound. I think there'd be a lot of love for some unique Sonic Dreadnoughts or Hellbrutes perhaps. That seems to be quite a common fan favourite request, and Games Workshop just don't really seem to have done that very much for the Deity Legions at all. I feel like broadly they're probably a bit more likely to be going for chapter-specific infantry or troop-type things more so than vehicles and monsters. That just seems to be what they tend to do these days when they go for Legion-specific themed things. That certainly felt the case for the Blood Angels and the Dark Angels. Neither of them really got any vehicle releases at all. The Blood Angels just got the Brutalis Dreadnought painted black as the Death Company one. In any case though, look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think will happen with the Emperor's Children release, and what are the miniatures that you most want to see? Look forward to hearing all your thoughts, ideas and expectations. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I'll certainly keep the regular 40k videos coming, with new ones out just about every day. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and you can find that linked in the video description. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.